so I can go home and read. Like,
I don't know, like when you exalt him, let's say, when Allah is or God is exalted is something that's, you know, out there but with you, that you can find or you can reach out to, or in a sense you can speak to in your own.
how long you been reading Quran now?
But that's always been a premise for.
Yeah.
For
How long you
for a
been
long
reading the
time.
Quran?
So it's really, I think it's just statementing it in a different way,
Yeah.
or beautifying it more than what the Bible did.
Oh.
Yeah, because they're two different books.
Yeah.
So
But how long you been reading the Quran?
It focuses more on worshipping Allah.
What
right?
is?
The Quran. The Quran focuses more on the worship.
The Quran focuses on 6 principles.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the prayer and.
No, I'm talking about the fundamental purpose of the Quran is to get mankind, all of mankind, to know who God is.
So you feel that people before that didn't know?
I'm not saying people may not know, but sometimes you know something, sometimes you forget. Sometimes you know something, you lose it. Some people do not know who God is. I meet a lot of people who don't know who God is. But I'm saying to you, the fundamental message of the Quran is to get people to know who God is. And when they know who God is, they make a connection with God. And again, when they make a connection with God, they enter into a covenant with God to serve God and to worship Him and to honor Him and to know Him. And in return, He will forgive you all of your sins. The covenant man has with God. So Allah in the Quran extended that covenant to man. Have you read any passages in the Quran that talk about the covenant, the mithaq?
Not to mind.
Yeah. So the Quran, Allah invited mankind to a covenant with Him of how they can benefit by being in a covenant with Allah. So if you read it, you will see God is trying to let you know who God is not, and how to make a connection with Him, and also how to enter into a covenant with God. So that's what the Quran is there. And then the Quran gives you an overview of the purposes of creation. Why God created people, why God created human beings, why God created the creation. And the Quran is suggesting that God created everything so that you know Him and that you coming back to Him. All of you human beings are coming back to Allah. And Allah re-emphasizes this point throughout the Quran that remind you that all of you are coming right back to me to be judged, to be paid, to be repaid for what you did.
Okay. So I have a question for you. Where do you feel that our souls come from when we're born into this world? If
Where it come from?
If God created us.
Yeah.
In Islam,
Yeah.
where do our souls come from? when
Yeah,
we're
good,
born?
good. Alhamdulillah.
When
Sorry?
we're born spiritually,
Yeah.
in the flesh, we're born. Where have our souls come from?
Where it come from?
Yeah.
I don't know where the souls come from.
So God created us, or He didn't?
He created everything. There's
Right,
nothing
so-
that
so
you and I
why do
can
we
talk
need-
about
why do we
that God
need-
did not create.
Okay, so at which point in life do we then really need to find God if God has sent His? If we've come from God, why do we then need to worship God and be reminded? Isn't God with us because He created us and He gave us?
He created us.
I mean, our parents, we've got our genetics from our parents, from our family. But if you're saying God is responsible for every human being, then why do we even need to re-find Him?
Yeah, because God created
Because
you.
of what the adults are doing.
No,
We shouldn't,
a
really
parent.
we shouldn't need to be taking any shahada or being baptised because we've just come straight, right? Being born into the world, we're fresh from God's creation.
But being born, do you
So
accept
what
that?
happens? Our hormones come into play and change
Okay.
us into devils, or what happens? There's something missing there. That
What-
we need to.
What is missing is quite clear.
Really, if we're 9 months in the womb, right, that's enough time, yeah, to, let's say, for us to be ready to be born. Where do we lose our way to know about God then? This is what I'm saying.
But would you acknowledge
Why
that?
do we need any religion?
Would you acknowledge?
All right, go on.
Would you acknowledge that
That's my question.
God created us And the first man God created is Adam, and he taught Adam everything that Adam needs to know. No, just a minute, what I'm trying to say. God taught Adam everything that Adam need to know to live on this earth and be successful. And it's through Adam and with Adam alayhi salam, peace be upon him, that Adam established the will of God, teaching mankind how to live with each other, how to serve God, how to establish communities and societies. Now, multiple generations after Adam, people went astray. They went away from the teachings of Adam. They went away from the teachings of God. And therefore, very often afterwards, God sent messengers and prophets to remind and invite mankind to the way, the teachings of God.
So what about the people being born today? What have they got to do with what happened for Adam's sin? I don't see that. That doesn't make sense.
But
to me, it doesn't make sense.
you don't see.
You're talking about a generation of people that were having an affliction with Egyptians and Jews, and then you're saying every single baby that's born today is paying the punishment and needs to reconnect to God after they've been born. That doesn't make sense.
If you cannot make the connection between the guidance that Adam brought to this earth.
So what's going on up in heaven where God resides with Adam and everything that they couldn't, fix that and go, all right, enough's enough now. Every child that's going to be born is going to have the genetic code of being godly.
Everyone has it.
So
We have a genetic code of being godly.
So we're either from God or we're not.
That's why it's called a reminder. It's called a reminder because the souls born into this world already know that they have one God and one creator. And when we come into this world and we come in contact with truth and righteousness, we make a connection with it. We can identify it. This is why when you speak truth to someone, they know internally inside of them that is the truth. They know that they were created to serve God and to know God. And every human being, regardless of who he is, at some point in time, you want to know who is God, who is your God, who created you, why he created you. Everyone wants to know that. They want to know the truth about it. So we're born with a genetic nature to know who God is and to serve him. So the Quran and the previous scriptures came as a reminder for what you already know. It's inside of our DNA, our spiritual DNA. But you're reading the Quran, as a person read Quran, and you're trying to understand both scriptures. I'm really interested in the passages of the Quran that you find quite interesting.
Well, as I said, it's just where what I said before, words where it like beautifies God.
Right. How it glorifies God. Like Aratul Kursi, the second verse,
then that means that
second chapter.
We've lost it somehow.
So have you?
So that means we're not strong enough. That genetic code isn't strong enough to keep us away from sinful actions.
It's not complete. It is strong enough, but it's not complete. So everyone is born with a fitrah, a natural disposition of knowing who God is and knowing truth and knowing some degree of right and wrong. Because if you don't like to be hurt, you should not hurt someone. Everyone knows that. And we're born with that nature to understand that. But you're right, I find it quite interesting as well. As much as a previous Christian, I was a Christian before, which you know, and I converted to Islam. Some of the ways the Quran, the way they glorify God, they magnify his name, was awesome. And I just felt really good and make a connection in my heart in any words that will glorify God and magnifying his name. Also in the Quran, you will see all the different names and descriptions of God. You will see that. You've come across that.
But one thing I'll say is the repetition of glorifying Allah in the Quran.
Yes.
Yeah? It repeats itself.
Yes.
So why would it need to do that? Why was Allah put a messenger through 23 years of receiving the Quran, taking into account how much of it is repetition? because it's already said it once,
Right.
or twice, or three times. And then when you look at the passages, they don't tell like a story. It's like, you know, like one surah.
Yes.
There is one surah where I actually, for the first time looking through it, and I haven't read all of the Quran, but the first time looking through it, there was a chapter which actually was more of a readable parable and a story than an event.
Want tissue?
You're right, thanks. No, I don't.
okay.
I need one.
No. Just like to offer.
But thanks. I cannot remember which. Can't remember which surah it was. But it was probably more. It was a complete story, which you find from like the Bible. So the Bible are stories. The Bible's stories or events. Yeah, of times of what was happening, the people that ruled the land at the time, why Jesus opposed them. Yeah.
But what I find interesting with both the Quran and the Bible, both of them, all these religious books sit beautifully in context, historical context. So for example, you may read a passage and you may identify a repetition. And the reason is because the truth has been repeated to many different people in different times and in different occasions. So if you look at the most successful athletes, one of the reasons why they're successful is because they've been repeating one thing over and over. So whether somebody plays lawn tennis or table tennis, they practice these things over and over repetitively. So this repetition have a way of solidifying in our brain. It's kind of like imprinting in our brain and our heart exactly who God is. And actually, these Quranic verses, they are inviting God into your life, repeatedly inviting God into your life. So that's why the repetition is important. And the Quran, when the Quran is recited, angels come to listen to the Quranic recitation. Wherever the Quran is recited or is heard or is talked about, angels come to bear witness to the Quran being recited. And as I said to you before, the Quran is called a discourse. Multiple conversations happening. Sometimes Allah is speaking, sometimes the prophets are speaking, sometimes a third party, the people is speaking. Moses said this, Pharaoh said this, Abraham said this, Noah said this, Nimrod said this, Pharaoh said this. All various conversations, what we call a Quran. Multiple conversations happening in different times and different places. But the more important thing is most of these scriptures really works beautifully when it is in context to something, historical context. And even when you study Quran with a teacher. And you probably read the Quran without a teacher, so you might miss quite a lot. So even if you study Ibn Kathir in English, context, Sheikh, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi, kayfa al-hal? Alhamdulillah.
Hello.
You don't say hello.
How are you?
Sheikh, you have the mic on you, eh?
Yeah.
All right, that's cool.
Oh,
That's
who's this man?
exactly. Yeah. So the question is,
Was it you I asked before about Prophet David, and how comes Prophet David was, you know, a well spoken of biblical person, prophet?
David was a mighty messenger of God. He was, was powerful. Very, very powerful. He had a lot of challenges, a lot of wars he fought.
And in Islam,
He defended Israel. He restored the honor of Israel when Israel was beaten and abused and captured. And David was a mighty messenger of
is
God.
he classed as a true prophet to his words? So things that he prophesied through dreams, are they classified as true?
All
in Islam?
Yeah. The Prophet Muhammad said something
Why
about.
does he also not have a place in the Quran?
So?
Why does Prophet Daniel not have a place in the Quran? Daniel.
Yes.
Prophet Daniel, not
Yeah.
David.
Yeah.
Daniel.
Oh, Daniel. Yeah. Yeah, but
Is it only those in the Quran that supposedly you don't agree with, which have been rewritten? So the stories from the Bible, which were reiterated correctly, from Allah in the Quran, correct? Because the Quran was sent down to correct biblical events or stories. That's my understanding, correct? So, yeah? So the Quran is supposed to correct biblical stories that were untrue because they say some of the Old Testament was written or changed, right? But what about Prophet Daniel? Is there anything you think where Prophet Daniel prophesied and it came true, according to do with Israel?
The Quran doesn't make any reference to Prophet.
Prophet Daniel.
No, it doesn't. But the Prophet Muhammad did make a few comments about Daniel. And the hadith, yeah, and tafsir, yeah. Explanation of Quran, historical context. So you find that. So if you get a book, there's a book called The Stories of Prophets by Ibn Kathir. That's quite interesting. I think you will love it. You would love it.
Right, I'm going to have a final question. Is there anything in the Quran which also is the same as what is written in the Bible, or what's the word I'm looking for? Complements what was said in the Bible? So maybe, for instance, about Mary.
But you already know the answer for that. There's a whole surah called Surah Maryam. You know Surah Maryam?
Is the Quranic story of Mary the same as what's in the Bible?
Most of it.
Most of it? Is there any discrepancy?
The only discrepancies between the Quran and the Bible is that we don't believe Jesus to be God or the Son of God.
Okay.
But a lot of the narrative of the purpose of Jesus as to come and give guidance to mankind, his healing, and all the different things, a lot of it, I would say most of it, works together. They correspond with each other, except that Jesus is not God and he's not the Son of God. And God does not have any sons, he does not have any daughters, and he did not die on the cross.
Okay. Are there any other biblical prophets in the Quran which complement the Bible?
Abraham. Abraham as well, yeah. Oh, yeah, quite a lot. Jacob, Solomon, all of them mentioned.
So I haven't really read the Quran that much. It's just like,
little, yeah.
as I said earlier, it's sometimes I hear things and then I go and look into it.
Yeah. What Quran do you use? Is just online translation?
Sahih International, Quran.com, or
Well, those are quite okay. They're quite good.
yeah. There's different. I know there's different websites there.
But next time you come across anything interesting that you read of the Quran or Hadith, we're quite happy to have some conversations about that.
Okay, yeah, because I haven't been coming down much, so sometimes I don't really get prepared too much, so at the moment. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, thanks a lot.
Again?
Abdullah.
Abdullah from channel, YouTube.
Streetlight News. I have
Light News.
Yeah.
All right, so it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, same, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right.
What is your name again? Sazel. Awesome. I go on your YouTube channel sometimes, and I'll subscribe again.
Yay. Good. Right. Yeah.
All right, Sazel. Thank you. Thank you.
Wait, do you have a mic?
Huh?
Do you have a mic? Sorry. Apologize. Hashim is coming. I'll call him. Hashim. Hashim. How much you making, bro? Huh? How much you making, bro? I'm not making nothing. I'm only cameraman. Huh? This video making a lot of money. No, you. Why you accusing me? Okay, can I show you my account? You show me your account. Silence. Shake it. fix it too easy. I fix it too easy. I'm only cameraman, man. I'm only a cameraman. How many cameras you got? I can't even I'm only cameraman. It makes difference between how many cameras do you have? No.